I quit Elden Ring PvP. And it's not because of any bad feeling that I had toward any one side in, the PvP community. It was just more that, I've made a few videos now about PvP, about invasions in specific, and, the philosophy of it and how I feel that people should look at it or think about it or whatever the case may be. And after having read a lot more comments and watching a lot more videos on the matter, I always try to look at things as much of an open mind as I possibly can. And I think my long break from Elden Ring has helped me to do that because I can I'm not invading every night. So instead, I'm consuming other sort of content of people on both sides and kind of reading everybody's opinion and thinking about it as subjectively as I possibly can. And I've come to the realization why Elden Ring PvP is not fun. If you'd asked me maybe 2-3 months ago, I probably would have said because hosts are, they are, a bunch of cowards and they all want to gank and blah, blah, blah. I would have said some shit like that. But now that I think about it, it doesn't have to do with that at all, because there's a bigger underlying reason for all the sort of kind of lesser reasons that you don't like the game. You could say things like, invaders are this or hosts are that or gankers are this, but it doesn't have really much to do with that in the first place. Again, there's an underlying reason for these things, and it's because there's really no place for the PvP in Elden Ring at all. It doesn't feel, there's no aim to the PvP system in Elden Ring. And I thought about that when I was thinking, what makes a fun PvP experience? And that's when both sides find the PvP to be, the reason that they're playing the game. When people want to engage in the PvP is when it starts to be fun. A good example that I'd like to think of is like the other game that I play a lot is Overwatch. And I was just imagining, like, what if half of the people on my team and half of the people on the enemy team didn't give a damn about what was going on in the game and were just emoting the whole time or running off cliffs and, completely blowing off the game? Like, how unfun of an experience would that be if not everybody involved was interested in engaging it in the first place? And that stems from the whole argument from co-opers and hosts saying, they feel like invasions are like they're getting something done to them against their will or something like that. You've heard these people saying things like, "Oh, you're invading me against my will. It's non-consensual," and it's like it clearly is, because like the whole idea behind playing multiplayer, summoning co-opers to help you through the level is that it's counterbalanced by you opening yourself up to invasions. So you make the decision whether or not you want to be invaded by summoning people, right? And although that is true, it doesn't matter, right? That's the thing, is it doesn't matter that that's true, because that's not what that co-opper wanted to do in the first place. He heard from a homie, maybe he's never played a FromSoft title before, but he heard from a homie that they can summon each other in each other's big-ass open world and play through the game together and have epic boss battles and all this shit, right? But what the part that they didn't really hear was, but yeah, they're also going to be getting invaded by other players around the world who are much more skilled than they are. They didn't hear that part. And although I'm not saying that they're right to think that they shouldn't have that happen to them, because again, that is just the way the game works. If you summon, you open yourself up to invasions. But again, it doesn't matter that that's true, because in somebody's mind, it was just going to be a chill co-op experience with their friend, right? But whether that's the intention of the game or not doesn't matter. What does matter is that both sides aren't equally enthusiastic about the experience as the other. It's usually pretty one-sided. The invader is the one who wanted to engage in PvP, and the host or co-opers just kind of wanted to run through a level and maybe get a rune arc at the end or some shit like that, right? Or just wanted to like try out their new boss killing build, because most of these build explanations, not most, but a lot of these, like try this build, try that build videos you see in shorts and other YouTube videos all around the game are like a lot of, oh, this is the biggest boss ripper build in the entire game, or do 257% consecutive damage, but that's for something you're actually going to do consecutive damage to, or something like that, aka NPC enemies. So when it comes to PvP, these people aren't building themselves for that kind of thing. They're building themselves for more of the PvE experience. But the invaders are totally geared up or set up or whatever, or even just have the better game sense, knowledge, and timings suited for fighting. So they're going to be, long story short, these host guys that are not very interested in PvP, who just wanted to like go through their level with their friend or whatever, right, are going to be getting their asses kicked by Mr. Invader. And they're going to be upset about that. It's like, hey, man, you told me that this game was about running around the world and having epic experience with your friends. You never said there was going to be these red guys coming in here and making it hard to play. And again, I am that invader. So I like, I'm not having a bias toward hosts or co-opers right now. I'm saying this is my moment where I'm having this kind of bigger picture in my head why the game in general just isn't fun to do. I wish more co-opers and hosts enjoy the PvP aspect of the game. I wished that some more of them were better at fighting and didn't rely on L2 spamming, because they don't actually know how to play a Souls-like game. They don't actually know how to use their sword, their weapon. They don't know the different move sets and how they combo into each other. They just know spam, spam, spam. And that's not their fault. For a lot of people, again, this really is one of their, if not their very first FromSoft game. And they're just going to be running with whatever they know works against bosses. And what do bosses know about fighting other than, their programming, which they can learn, but you can't learn the process of every human being that you're ever going to play against, right? Because that's what's spontaneous about it. And again, the invader is the one that wanted that in the first place, right? The invader thought, I'm going to invade because that's what I want to do. But there's no guarantee that the other side sees it that way. And I'm not saying that there aren't good invasions. There are some times, and you can see in some of my older videos, where I've had invasions that I really had a good time in, that were really fun, where both sides were participating, and it was a good time. But what I'm also saying is that those moments are so far few in between. And again, it's because most of the time, both sides didn't really fully want to be a part of it, I wanted to invade, and the host side did not care for that at all. And there's nothing in Elden Ring to incentivize you to do that. You can get through an entire 100% run of Elden Ring, I think for the most part, and never really had to do one thing involving actually winning an invasion. And I mean winning an invasion, not just doing the 3 festering fingers or whatever they're called to get into Mogwin Palace early, but like legitimately having to win the invasion. Because back in the earlier Souls games, there was an actual reason for the PvP system, right? And it wasn't strictly invasions like red versus host. There were many ways you could go with this, and a lot of it was tied to quest lines and upgrades and rewards and stuff like that. Allegiances that you can actually make in game, giving a purpose to all the matchmaking. Because you see, when these games were new, the Soul series especially, there was really no expectation for where the game was going to go. There wasn't an expectation for emphasis on single player PvP, because it just nobody really was sure what they were doing yet. So the fact that all these things were implemented into the game really made it feel like an intended mechanic of the game. It felt like matchmaking, like PvP, had an actual place in the game. There was a purpose for it. the game wouldn't make sense without it, basically. So because especially with Covenant systems, because you can I remember back in Dark Souls 1 specifically, you can be invaded just like you can in Elden Ring by a red. But then say that if that red kills you, the host has this option to consume this item called an indictment, which basically marks that invader's world. And there's another covenant of blues, you see where I'm going with this, right? Who dedicate their lives to hunting down invaders who are basically, evil people doing wrong against the lords. So whenever a host indicts an invader, that means that, they were invaded. And therefore you as the blue, in the blue covenant, serving Lord Gwendolyn, son of Lord Gwyn, you have your purpose to hunt down the enemies of the lords, those who hunt down other humans and steal their humanity. So now you're playing blue for a reason. You're not just arbitrarily getting summoned in some host world to fight off a red that you don't even care about. There's no backstory to why you're doing this in Elden Ring. But in Dark Souls, there is. Maybe you've been invaded once. You didn't like that invasion. You felt you had a duty to stop these reds. So you joined the Blue Covenant to invade the world of invaders. That's how it works. It's not like you're coming in during the fight of a red versus a host. It's that host has gone home. He thinks he's safe. And then suddenly this blue guy appears in his kitchen. And he's like, you remember that innocent host you killed, bitch? Well, I'm here to avenge his death. It's cool. It's cinematic. It has a place. It has a purpose. And it felt fun to do, And not only was it fun and had purpose, but there was rewards attached to them. There would be some things like spells, items, weapons that were exclusive to these Covenant quests. And in order to get those items and things and other things like that, like the miracles, the spells, the weapons, you had to reach a certain rank in those covenants, meaning you had to do a certain number of that type of invasion. And sometimes it wasn't just one versus the other guy. Sometimes you could have a multitude of covenants all fighting in the same place, and none of them are necessarily aligned with each other. And then some that are just completely neutral. Like, for example, in Dark Souls 3, there was a covenant called the Mad Covenant. I don't remember exactly. I don't know if that's the exact name of them, but they'd be purple people. They can invade a world that's already getting invaded by, like, for example, a red fighting a host and his yellow sun bros. And then suddenly, in the middle of this red versus host fight, this purple dude comes through. And then everybody just looks at him and is like, what is he going to do? Because he can kill anybody he wants. He's in the Mad Covenant. He can kill the host, he can kill a co-op, or he can kill the invader. He still gets his reward. It doesn't matter who dies. He just needs to be a part of that fight. So just imagine that kind of tension where it's host versus invader, and then in comes this Mad Covenant guy. And then both of them have to be worried now. It's like, is he going to attack me? Is he going to attack the host? It's such a cool interaction where that Mad Covenant person can really just decide who he wants to kill. Do I want the easy kill and kill the invader and gank him with the host and just get my item? Or do I want to make this deviously hard, fun and join the invader and fight? Or should I just constantly switch sides and keep him guessing? That would be such a cool part of the experience, of PvP experience. They had a great formula for these things in the earlier Dark Souls games, and they abandoned it all. They abandoned all the greatness that they had in terms of matchmaking in PvP in Elden Ring. Even though they have the formula for all of it, they could easily do that in Elden Ring. The Mad Covenant can basically just be the madness, the Frenzied Flame. There could be a covenant of Frenzied Flame people who invade random worlds as well, and they can kill whoever they want, whether it be an invader or a host. It doesn't, or even a blue or a co-op, or it doesn't matter. Somebody just dies to their frenzy, and they take something like their frenzied eyeballs as a covenant reward, and they can exchange that as currency to their covenant to get, like that. Imagine what kind of an expansion that would be if they just came out with a covenant expansion where there was no content added except for new NPCs, new gear, new equipment, and new, well, covenants that you can align yourself to and open up a new world of PvP. Then now you'd have a reason to want to try the PvP. You'd be like, hey, I really want to invade as a purple madness person, and I want to get these rewards, these special rewards that you can only get from doing a certain number of invasions in this covenant to level up in the covenant. So not only does it give you a reason to engage with the PvP, but it also gives you more options. It makes it open to whatever you want to do. Do you want to be the invader? Do you want to be the one who defends against invaders? Or do you want to just be that agent of chaos who does whatever the hell you want to do? They can have Lane can have a covenant to protect the Holy Land where you spontaneously invade people going through Lane as a protector, kind of like one of their knights. And there's so many places that would be good invasion, like covenant invasion zones, and that can where other covenants can just be a random part of it. Like I said, blues who are always just around to kind of help somebody, or the mad covenant who can just spontaneously invade in any world, whether it's being already invaded or not, and decide who they want to help, whether they want to help the invader. It's just, I don't know. I feel like there's so much potential. There's so much potential. So much of it, and the reason we know it's potential is because they already have it. They already have the formula for all this stuff. They've done this, and they perfected it in Dark Souls 3. There's a reason why people still play Dark Souls 3 to this day. And sure, yeah, you do get your occasional brand new person who, especially, like people who Elden Ring was the first game, you'll get your random person who'll be like, oh, I've never played and I want to try it now. But the people who play it every day still, like, there's still such a community. And the last time I went to play it myself, I slapped on that Fair and Keep covenant, and bam, immediately when I got my first invasion, 4 people all fighting in a chaotic fight together. It was an invasion zone that people were ready for, little fight clubs. And this is the thing that I loved about the PvP in the Dark Souls games, is that almost everybody was down for it. See, again, because it's a part of the game. It's a well-integrated part of the game. So people, not everybody, there was still your occasional person who didn't want to fight or didn't want to be engaged in PvP. But for the most part, a lot of people did. Because again, PvP was an integral part of the Dark Souls series. Whereas in Elden Ring, it really is completely optional. And you don't need to engage in multiplayer for literally anything at all. You don't gain anything that you couldn't get otherwise. There are no special spells or weapons that you can only get from doing invasions and covenants or any kind of stuff like that, except for maybe the Volcano Manor stuff. But I mean, I don't actually think you don't even have to do real invasions in that game. You have to just do NPC invasions. Yeah, so you don't actually have to ever do any real invasions in Elden Ring to do anything. So when you're not incentivized at all to engage in the PvP and you're not expecting it, then why even bother, right? Why even bother? So that's really my whole point boiled down in a nutshell. The reason why Elden Ring PvP isn't fun is because both sides don't have the same expectation about it. One person wants it a lot of the time, the other person does not. It's as simple as that. Whether they opted into it by summoning or not does not matter. If they didn't want to do it, it's not going to be fun, no matter which way you look at it. Hopefully, with FromSoft's next project, because they can't salvage this for Elden Ring anymore, it's already been done. What they made has already been made, and it takes some really drastic changes. Like I said, maybe something like a Covenant expansion DLC where they just add covenants all around the world and they all have their own, unless they did something like that, which I highly doubt they're going to do. We're going to have to wait and see if in their next project they implement PvP matchmaking in a more natural and a more sensible way. Something tangible, something with that results in some actual kind of reward for your time. Not just a completely optional mechanic that really doesn't gain you anything but a rune arc. But anyways, If you listen to this point, thank you for listening, and I will see you in a future video. Goodbye.